Whenever you hear the word nicotine, our first thought goes to cigarettes or anything tobacco related. Nicotine is a special compound that has a lot of nitrogen, and you could mostly find it in tobacco, a natural plant. But it's not like you can only find it in tobacco. You can find nicotine in tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, and also green peppers. But the most amount of nicotine is found in tobacco. So anyone that smokes hookah or cigars, they're allowing a lot of nicotine to enter the bloodstream. But recently, a lot of people are not addicted to these traditional ways. They're actually addicted to something very new called e-cigarettes that use unnatural oils. A lot of doctors and many scientists believe that nicotine is extremely addictive, and they believe anyone that smokes anything that has nicotine in it, they are addicted to the nicotine and not the smoke itself. But why does it cause an addiction? Most people get their nicotine craving from cigarettes because 1.3 billion people in the world smoke cigarettes. So the nicotine comes in the smoke, goes down into your lung, and it enters the bloodstream through there. And because of that, that allows the brain to release dopamine. You might have seen our video about dopamine. In that video, we explained that most addictions are addictions to dopamine, not to the actual drug. So it makes sense that 1.3 billion people are addicted to smoking cigarettes. Smoking stuff, especially cigarettes, are highly addictive. It makes the body so accustomed to the nicotine you get that you don't think about anything. Just for a little bit of dopamine, you put your entire body in danger. There is a lot of carcinogens inside the cigarettes, like the paper, a lot of other chemicals that added onto it, the tobacco itself that creates tar that literally turns your lungs black after years of smoking. All this enters your body. But the only thing your body enjoys is the dopamine from the nicotine. A lot of people think that smoking only affects the lungs, but that's not true because it affects everything in its way, like your teeth, gums, tongue, entire mouth, your airway, voice box, lungs, even other organs like your heart, kidneys, and bladder. You put that much damage on your body just for a little bit of dopamine. A lot of people are upset the way things are going because e-cigarettes or electronic cigarettes are taking over the world. And a lot of young people think that the e-cigarette is not as bad as smoking regular cigarettes. There's no difference, and some believe that's even worse. You're putting a whole lot of chemicals on a coil that heats up extremely hot, much hotter than any other cigarette, and since it burns even hotter, there's more nicotine in that puff, so it gives you a bigger rush, making the addiction that much more. So whenever you have even more dopamine, the addiction is even stronger because the rush is that much better. Most of the people that use electronic cigarettes in the world are in the US, Europe, and China. And the worst part is that most of the people using e-cigarettes are young people that never smoked cigarettes in their life. Maybe one time a friend had one and they took a puff and they became hooked because it was such an easy dopamine rush. The companies that make electronic cigarette oils aren't helping either because they create all these funky looking containers that consist fruity flavors, and it makes it more attractive for young people to buy. In the 2010s, when the first e-cigarette companies came along, the reason they built something like this was to make smokers quit smoking by using this. But it soon backfired and it turned the other way around. Some people have to start smoking cigarettes to quit e-cigarettes. But that was just a joke because they're both pretty damn bad. So now we realize that nicotine itself is not bad whatsoever. It's found in some vegetables even. So what happens if we use pure nicotine? What does pure nicotine do to the body? You might have seen these nicotine patches that people trying to quit smoking use. These patches have nicotine inside them, and slowly through the skin, the nicotine could enter your bloodstream and allow the addict to have the right amount of nicotine so they can somewhat calm down and not crave a cigarette. This helps a lot of people quit smoking because they get that nicotine rush they need. This is very good because you don't have to continue smoking, and slowly you can turn the dosage down. One of the biggest side effects to nicotine is that it makes you lose your appetite, and it also speeds up your metabolism. People that are addicted to cigarettes usually eat a lot less. And some smokers think that it's because of the cigarette smoke that's in their mouth and all the chemicals that goes along with it makes them not want to eat, but that's not true. That's purely the nicotine doing its thing. But the biggest effect nicotine has on your body is your central nervous system, especially your brain. The first thing it does, it gives you a lot of dopamine. And the second thing you probably feel is more motivated and have a more positive outlook. The reason nicotine could work so quickly is because it reaches your brain very quickly. It could pass through all the walls, cell walls, and release the right amount of dopamine, making you feel good instantly. That's why some smokers, when they take a hit, they could feel the dopamine rush right away. But right now, there is a small problem, because nowadays there are methods where you can use pure nicotine very easily. You don't have to smoke anything anymore. If you use pure nicotine, on paper, there's basically no negative effects. But the problem is, it releases a good amount of dopamine, making you feel great. You might say, what the hell is the problem? The problem is that came to you very easily, and you didn't work for it whatsoever. And when you get dopamine this easily, an addiction could form. In our video about dopamine, we said if a person gets addicted to very easily accessible dopamine rushes, that dopamine rush will quickly fade away, and you have to do that certain thing, get that dopamine, just to feel normal. So it's not an enjoyable dopamine rush anymore. That's when a person should be careful. If you have nicotine available to you, do not be irresponsible with it. One of the hardest things to quit as a human is smoking cigarettes. A person gets heavily addicted to cigarettes. It feels like it's not that bad for you because you can smoke it for years. It's always accessible. It's easy to light up. And all these compile on one another and make quitting cigarettes much harder than you think. Being addicted to nicotine is kind of comparable to alcoholism. There's a saying that says, drink responsibly. This could be applied to nicotine as well. When you're responsible with anything, you could control your life and not go off the rails. You could also compare it to one more thing, caffeine, something that's plentiful in coffee and black tea. Caffeine can give a lot of dopamine to a person, give them energy, and also boost their motivation. And that's why a lot of people are addicted to caffeine. There are people, if they do not have the cup of coffee at the right time, they will feel depressed. And that could be said about any addiction, including nicotine. Caffeine is not a bad thing, nor is nicotine, but it could create an addiction that can be a problem in your life. So we come to a conclusion that things like this should be taken responsibly. From eating junk food, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, and many other things. I wish you all the very best.